So as of Monday morning, we're about 2 weeks away from Christmas, and there seems to be a lack of Christmas spirit around our house.
Well, what do I owe the pleasure to?
As a mail carrier, I expect Paige to get grouchy. But my brother, he doesn't have much Christmas spirit either.
Christmas. Bah, humbug.
Evidently Monday morning, Jeremy woke up and decided it was his day to go Christmas shopping. But he was a little bit early.
Of course it's not open yet.
So he's got a little time to kill while he waits on Journeys to open.
Yep, there's my kind of store.
While he's killing time, he did find some Christmas gift ideas out in the main hall.
I know what I'm getting chumpy for Christmas. The Nutcracker.
After he got done at the mall, Vicky asked him to run an errand for her over to Walmart.
Another fine mess Vicky's got me into.
Evidently, he had to go pick up some cookie tins and Christmas cards for Miss Vicky. Anyhow, meanwhile out in the shop, I've got some kind of a gremlin plaguing the Malibu, and I've got to get to the bottom of it. For some reason, when the car's idling, the ignition system cuts out. And I noticed this morning that there was a screw laying on the floor mat on the passenger side that fell out of a terminal strip up under the dash. We went ahead and fixed that and found some loose wiring on the driver's side and thought we had figured out the problem. So I backed the old Malibu out of the shop, and June Pup jumps in with me to go for a test drive. Now, I've noticed this intermittent problem ever since the car got rewired, but it's beginning to happen more frequently, and at PRI, I wasn't sure if I was going to make it into the building. So good news, bad news, the problem still persists, but I realize it's evidently got something to do with the turn signals. The ignition will start to cut out as soon as you turn the turn signals on, and when the turn signals turn off, the problem goes away. Turn the turn signals back on, and the problem is back. So my test drive was a pretty short one, and I retreat back to the shop, where we're evidently going to have to dig into this thing a little deeper. Now, I'm planning to start doing a little bit of traveling with this car down south very soon, but there's absolutely no way I'm going to travel with this car until I find a smoking gun that leads to an explanation as to why my ignition system cuts out when the turn signals are on. Any kind of an electrical problem or ignition problem while you're trying to spray nitrous is a surefire recipe for disaster. So I go ahead and turn the turn signal on and start checking voltage to the digital retard box under the dash, and lo and behold, I find that I've definitely got a voltage problem. I should have close to 14 volts with the alternator running, but according to the voltmeter, I've only got 12.7 without the turn signals flashing. Every time the turn signals flash, it drops below 10. So evidently, I've got more than one problem in the wiring, and a new ignition box isn't going to solve this problem. So we swap a used alternator onto the Malibu and fix a couple connections under the dash, and voila, no more ignition cutout. So by this time I feel pretty confident we're on the right track and we can start moving forward with the Malibu and getting it ready to turn the nitrous on. Tuesday morning, Miss Harley was back in the office working on shipping out merchandise. The new EV and gasoline shirts came in, and Miss Harley was getting plenty of help from Scrappy. So while Harley's over there busy working on shipping merchandise out, I decide I want to go ahead and replace that 6AL box and digital retard box under the dash and consolidate everything into that 7531 box I had on my workbench. So Kenny goes ahead and starts pulling the old ignition system out while I head down to Mark's to pick up some electrical supplies.
I'd like to fill out an application for employment, sir.
Well, let me go get you one.
I'm ready to give up.
Are you really?
I'm waving the
You
surrender
can't do
flag.
that. See, if I can't give up, you can't give up.
All right, so here's what I think happened.
So while I'm digging around looking for a voltage problem yesterday, I also found that the charge cable was loose on the back of the alternator.
Yeah, that's nice and silver. That's nice and blue. Who was responsible for that?
I'm guessing Uncle Buckolis.
Really? Oh boy. You wait till I see him next.
Speaking of Uncle Bucko, he was late to work this morning, so I gather up all my supplies and head back to the shop.
Well, what's your excuse for being late today?
Oh, our parents.
Mom and Dad have a 2015 Chevy Silverado pickup truck that seems to have a transmission problem. So Jeremy ran up to the farm to get the truck and brought it back to his shop where he can pull it inside in a heated garage if he needs to. But before he does that, he wants to hook his scanner up and check for codes in the computer.
Well, after some technical difficulty, I finally got this thing to fire up, and I'm pulling out a PO700 transmission control system fault. See if I can look in my thing and see what that figures out.
I think Mom and Dad's getting tired of fighting those problems, which is why they bought the old 80 Chevy after Dad rode around in my 64 when we were doing beans. Anyway, back at my shop, Kenny and I are making pretty good progress putting this 7AL box in my Malibu. Kenny was busy running a couple new signal wires from the Max 5 nitrous controller out to the 7AL box on the inner fender, and Jeremy got busy putting the new alternator on. It didn't take too long and Kenny had the new ignition box all wired up, so we turned the ignition on and I plugged in the handheld controller to go through all the settings, and everything was still the same as it was the last time Tommy's S10 ran. I went ahead and set the high side rev limit to 7,700 RPM and then double checked the ignition timing and set it at 36 degrees initial. The next thing I need to do is turn the Max 5 nitrous controller on and make sure that it's sending the proper signal to the 7AL box to pull ignition timing when the nitrous kits come on. So with the engine running and the standalone fuel system turned off, I engage the wide open throttle switch and find out that I need to change a setting in my software so that the Max 5 sends a positive signal to the ignition box instead of a ground. After I fix that, the ignition system and the Max 5 communicate perfectly. Each stage of the kit has a different timing retard, and I double check to make sure both are pulling the amount of timing I had it set for. Once we had all that figured out, it was time to put the dash back together, fire the car up, and go for a little test drive. Now I gotta tell you, by the time I got done fighting the electrical problems in this car the last 2 days, it felt really good to pull out on the road knowing that my electrical problems are far behind me and I've got a much better ignition system in this car than it's ever had before. The engine feels and sounds much peppier with the new ignition system and a hotter coil. And with the amount of power that I plan on making with this thing on nitrous, it's probably gonna need it. I decided while I've got the car out, I'm gonna run up through Outville and take a little trip around the block. The car feels and sounds so much better with the new ignition system. I just can't hardly wait to turn the wick up on this thing and start spraying nitrous to it. But I figure while Kenny's been back at the shop waiting to find out whether this thing's fixed, I ought to just take him out and show him. So I go back and pick Kenny up for a little ride. While Kenny's out running around with me, I figure we stop down to a test spot, do a little burnout, and back up in our tracks. So far, so good. The ignition system sounds nice and clean, crisp, no problems at all with the burnout. Now it's time to back up in our tracks and hit this thing and see what it does. I managed to find another little problem with the car, but it's probably not what you might expect. When I hit the gas, one of the steering wheel spokes broke off the rim, and it startled me and I let off the gas for a split second until I realized what had happened. I may end up having to put a different steering wheel on this car, because the one I've got in it definitely wasn't made for racing. While Kenny and I are finishing up our test drive in the old Malibu, Jeremy's down at his shop and he's got Mom and Dad's Silverado pickup truck pulled in, and it looks like he's going to have to do a transmission service, which he despises.
So I skipped a little video because of technical difficulty. You gotta drop the Y pipe down to get the pan out and all this other horse shit, jack of transmission up, you name it. But I got pan out. It doesn't look too bad. Oil is definitely dirty, but that's what you get with electronics.
Jeremy managed to get Mom and Dad's transmission serviced down in his shop laying on the floor. And then after he got done test driving it, he brought it back to the farm and then stopped down to see me for a minute.
Well.
You get anything done?
Yeah, I got something done. This thing is freaking top notch. Ignition system, perfect.
No duct tape.
Huh?
No duct tape.
No, God, you're an idiot. Did you get Mom and Dad's truck fixed?
Yeah,
Are you sure?
best as I can tell you. I do more work to that 15 than I do the 92 that I pulled out of a fence row from sitting for 10 years. And drove
Oh,
real long.
you don't mean that.
I do.
Now I know Jeremy's getting tired of working on electronic stuff, but I've got another electronics job for him to do first thing in the morning. Currently, I'm down to having only one drone in operation right now, and I like to have a spare. So I told Jeremy first thing in the morning, take all those drones and make one good one out of all the junk ones you've got laying on your workbench. So he plugged in his soldering iron and put this thing back together. And unbelievably, it looks like it's going to work.
So what you're saying is I'm a genius? Yes.
No.
Yeah.
I'm saying the camera works, but you need to put propellers on it before we find out if this thing's gonna fly.
Oh, it's gonna fly, all right. Safety Bob.
Jeremy painted the top of this damn thing orange so that I could find it easier when I get it stuck in the trees. And for some reason, he's named it Safety Bob.
So which drone is this?
That's a little bit of number 1, number 2, and some new parts that we bought.
I don't have much faith that this thing's actually going to work. I figure it's best to fire it up in the shop, that way if it takes off and starts flying away, it can't go very far. But I was about to find out that wasn't a good idea either. Every one of these things has always been a problem to get it to connect after it's been crashed.
It says take off with caution. Do we dare launch this thing in the shop? Holy crap! Hey, doesn't you? Oh, wait a minute. Hey, hey, this thing's not exactly flying like it's. Uh-oh! Holy crap! I don't know, man. This thing's not as stable as it should be.
I couldn't believe the damn thing actually connected to the controller, much less took flight. But here we are, the damn thing's flying around the shop, just a little bit unstable compared to what it usually is. And of course the dogs made it a little bit difficult to concentrate.
I didn't even make it 5 minutes.
Let me take it outside. I didn't think it would fly.
Believe it or not, Uncle Bucko has pulled it off again. This time, taking 3 different drones and some parts that have never actually worked together and made one good drone out of a bunch of smashed ones, including the one that got smashed by the shovel. Scrappy and June Pup were having the time of their life out there chasing that drone around, because I was flying it low enough where they could really see it. But old Scrappy, she made contact with the damn thing. I figured for sure that was the end of Safety Bob, but evidently he's tougher than nails.
And you wonder why I gotta rebuild one once a week.
I crashed it once in the barn, Scrappy got a hold of it once outside, and the damn thing still flies and records video as good as the day it was new. So I brought it back in the shop and had Kenny start cleaning all the mud and the coffee off of it.
He had to clean all the coffee off of it.
Well, that's what made it fly better.
So after we got done dealing with that drone situation, it was time to get back to work, and I needed to run into Jegs and pick up some fittings so that we can finish up the fuel system on the nitrous kit. Thankfully, Uncle Terry was working in there today because I can't find fittings on this rack to save my life without his help. If it wasn't for Terry, I'd probably still be there looking for fittings. Unfortunately, there was a couple of things they only had in blue instead of black, but I can live with it. I can have Krylon Kenny paint them, or I can swap them out later. Anyway, when I got back to the shop, we went ahead and got all our plumbing taken care of. We got the new fuel pump installed, and really the only thing we've got left to do is install the regulator, check for leaks, put a colder set of spark plugs in it, and finally, plumb and wire the fuel pressure switch on the nitrous kit. Once we got all that done, I noticed that the driveway and the roads are starting to dry up good enough that I can just take the Malibu and drive it down to the filling station to fill up the standalone with race gas. So I backed the old Malibu out of the garage and head down to the truck stop near the interstate. By the look of the sky, it doesn't look too bad to the east, but out west, the clouds are rolling in. So this is going to have to be a really quick pit stop if I want to get the car back in the garage before it starts pouring down rain again. So I ran inside, prepaid for a gallon of race gas, filled up the standalone, and then we head back to the house. And it just started sprinkling on me as I came past National Trail Raceway, headed west. Someday I hope to get an automatic garage door opener, but for right now, Kenny Powers will have to do. All right, guys, welcome back to the shop. So I think we finally got the old Malibu pretty well squared away. It's looking pretty good. It sounded pretty good. It's definitely running pretty good. We got the new ignition system installed. We've got a new Holley blue pump. We've got the bypass regulator installed. I didn't get time today to show how to set the system up and set your fuel pressure and all that. Maybe get into that in the next video, okay? Just kind of pressed for time this week. I've been rushing around trying to get everything done. Vicky took off tonight and she met Gina Rose halfway to Kentucky so she could get a bunch of merch brought back here so we could get it shipped out for Christmas. And it turns out there's some extra hoodies and stuff that's been updated on the website. If you've been looking for some hoodies or some merchandise in sizes that we've been out of, you might want to go ahead and recheck that because Vicky's updated the website tonight with all the current inventory that we've got. She made a special trip halfway to Kentucky. Gina made a special trip halfway to Ohio to meet her tonight just so we could get this merch. And Vicky and Harley are going to be shipping this stuff out the next 2 days to make sure everybody gets their Christmas presents before Christmas. Let's see. So in other news, I was planning on maybe taking this car down south this weekend and making some test hits, but the weather's not looking too good. Saturday looks totally out of the picture, and it's Friday now, technically already. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm out here finishing this video. So it doesn't look like I'm going to make it anywhere this weekend with the Malibu to shake it down. However, if somebody within 8 hours driving distance from where I am in central Ohio has an opportunity for me to come to a track and at least make some 60 or 330 foot hits, holler at me, okay? Leave it in the comments. I'll see it, trust me. I'll be looking for it because I'd really like to at least go make some shakedown hits on this thing this weekend, at least get some shock settings dialed in, and try and get a handle on the 60 foot. You know, it is what it is. I've still got a little bit of work to do to the car. I still need to change plugs. Right now it's got -7 plugs in it. I'm going to put -10s in it because I intend to spray this thing. If the roads are dry tomorrow, I may even go out and make a little pull on the road just to check plugs and turn one kit on at a time and just see how it acts. So that's going to do it for tonight, guys. I appreciate everybody for watching, liking, sharing, subscribing, and all that. Really means a lot to us. I try to say that every video, and I don't want it to sound repetitive, but I very much appreciate it. Vicky does too. I'm going to hop off here tonight, get this video uploaded, get it edited, get the thumbnail done, and hopefully get to bed. Maybe tomorrow we can go spray some nitrous. Good night, everybody.